The rain fell in sheets across the Tokyo skyline as Agent Kai Morrison studied his reflection in the hotel window. At 28, he'd spent the last 6 years of his life becoming whoever the Intelligence Bureau needed him to be. A chameleon, a ghost. Tonight, he would become someone else entirely. The new financial analyst at Nakamura Holdings, the legitimate front for one of Asia's most sophisticated smuggling operations. His target was Ryo Nakamura, the enigmatic CEO whose file read like something out of a thriller novel. 34 years old, MBA from Oxford, suspected of moving everything from conflict diamonds to classified technology through a network spanning 12 countries. No convictions, no solid evidence, just whispers and suspicions that had finally grown loud enough to warrant Kai's deployment. "You'll have 6 months," his handler, Director Chun, had told him during the briefing. "Get close. Gain his trust. Find evidence we can actually use in court. Use whatever means necessary. We need this one, Morrison. Do whatever it takes to get it done." Kai nodded without hesitation. He'd used attraction as a tool before. It was just another part of the job, another mask to wear. He'd studied Ryo's file, noting the man's apparent preference for intelligence and competence over appearance, his history of brief, intense relationships that never lasted. Kai could work with that. What the file hadn't prepared Kai for was the physical presence of Ryo Nakamura himself. Their first meeting happened in a corner office on the 43rd floor, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a living painting. Ryo stood with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him, shoulders perfectly squared beneath an immaculate charcoal suit. When he turned, Kai felt something shift in his chest, an unwelcome flutter of attraction that he immediately tried to suppress. Ryo's eyes were dark and assessing, carrying an intelligence that seemed to look straight through Kai's carefully constructed cover story. He was tall, nearly 6'2", with sharp cheekbones and black hair swept back from his forehead. Everything about him radiated controlled power, from his measured movements to the slight curve of his lips that wasn't quite a smile. "Mr. Morrison," Ryo said, his English carrying only the faintest accent. "Your credentials are impressive. Harvard Business School, 5 years at Goldman Sachs, fluent in Japanese and Mandarin." He circled around his desk with predatory grace. "One wonders why you'd leave such a prestigious position for a small operation like ours." Kai had rehearsed this answer 100 times. "I grew tired of being a cog in a machine, Mr. Nakamura. I want to build something, not just maintain it. Your company is expanding rapidly. I'd rather be a significant contributor to something growing than invisible in something established." "Ryo," the CEO corrected, extending his hand. "We're informal here." The handshake lasted a fraction too long. Ryo's grip was firm, his palm warm against Kai's, and those penetrating eyes never left his face. Kai felt exposed, as if this man could somehow sense the wire he wasn't wearing, the truth he was concealing. "Welcome to Nakamura Holdings, Kai," Ryo said softly. "I have a feeling you're going to be exactly what we need." The first month passed in a blur of late nights and careful observation. Kai excelled at his cover role, analyzing market trends and investment opportunities with the same dedication he brought to his real job, finding cracks in Ryo's armor. But the man was meticulous. Every transaction had paper trails. Every business dealing appeared legitimate. If there was a shadow operation, it was buried deep. What Kai did discover was that Ryo Nakamura was nothing like his file suggested. Yes, he was brilliant and driven, but he was also unexpectedly kind to his employees, remembering birthdays and asking after sick relatives. He donated anonymously to charity. Kai knew this only because he'd hacked Ryo's personal accounts. He spoke 5 languages and could discuss everything from quantum mechanics to classical literature. He worked 16-hour days and somehow still found time to practice kendo at dawn. And he was lonely. Kai recognized it because he saw the same loneliness in his own mirror. Their relationship shifted during a business trip to Singapore. A crucial deal had fallen through, costing the company millions. Kai found Rio alone on the hotel rooftop at 2 in the morning. Tie loosened, sake bottle half empty beside him. "Shouldn't drink alone," Kai said quietly, stepping out of the shadows. Rio glanced up, surprise flickering across his usually composed features. "Shouldn't spy on your employer." "Wasn't spying. Couldn't sleep." Kai settled onto the bench beside him, maintaining a careful distance. For what it's worth, that deal was poisoned from the start. Their financials were fabricated. You dodged a bullet. You saw that. I see a lot of things. Kai accepted the sake cup Rio offered. "It's my job." They sat in comfortable silence, the city lights sprawling beneath them like a constellation. Finally, Rio spoke, his voice softer than Kai had ever heard it. "Do you ever feel like you're playing a role, Kai? Like the person everyone sees isn't quite real?" The question hit too close to home. Kai's throat tightened. This was it, the opening he'd been waiting for. He should push deeper, encourage more vulnerability, lay the groundwork for the intimate relationship his mission required. "Every day," he said, the words truer than he wanted them to be. "I built this company from nothing," Rio continued, staring into his cup. "My father left us with debts and dishonor. I was 17, responsible for my mother and sister. I did what I had to do to survive, to give them a life. And now," he gestured vaguely at the skyline, "now I have all this, and I'm still that scared kid, pretending to be someone worthy of it." Kai's training screamed at him to exploit this vulnerability, to push for more revelations, to deepen the connection that would make Rio trust him completely. That was the plan. That was always the plan. Instead, something uncomfortable twisted in his chest as he heard himself say, "You're more than worthy. I've watched you. The way you treat people, the integrity you bring to every decision. That's not an act." Where had that come from? He was supposed to be manipulating, not believing. Rio turned to face him, and in the dim light, his expression was heartbreakingly open. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I'm good at reading people," Kai whispered. "It's what I do." Something electric passed between them. Rio's gaze dropped to Kai's lips, then back up. The space between them felt charged, dangerous. This was exactly what Kai had been directed to pursue. The mission was unfolding perfectly. He should feel satisfied, professional, in control. Instead, his heart was racing for all the wrong reasons. Kai knew he should pull back, maintain some emotional distance, even as he manufactured physical intimacy. Remember, this was a job. Remember why he was here. Instead, he leaned in, and when their lips met, but it felt nothing like a calculated move. Kai felt himself falling into it, into him, and panic edged into the desire. This wasn't supposed to feel real. This was a tool, a tactic, a means to an end. So why did his chest ache when they finally broke apart? When they finally pulled away, both breathing hard, Rio pressed his forehead against Kai's. "This is a terrible idea." "The worst," Kai agreed, even as his hand found Rio's. His mind screamed warnings. "You're getting too close. You're losing objectivity. This is just a job. Just a job. I don't trust easily." "Neither do I." The irony of those words nearly choked him. "But I trust you." Rio's voice cracked slightly. The words were a knife to Kai's chest. Guilt crashed over him in waves, but he pushed it down, buried it deep. This was the mission. This was what Director Chun had ordered. He was doing his job. He told himself that all the way back to his hotel room, where he filed a report confirming that the romantic angle was proceeding as planned. He told himself that as he stared at his reflection, barely recognizing the person looking back. Just a job. Just a job. Just a job. The next 3 months were the best and worst of Kai's life, though he fought to acknowledge only the latter. By day, they were employer and employee, maintaining professional boundaries that grew increasingly difficult to observe. By night, they were something else entirely, something that terrified Kai more with each passing day. Rio showed Kai his private world, the tiny ramen shop where he'd worked as a teenager, his mother's grave where he still brought flowers every week, the observation deck where he came to think. Each revelation, each moment of vulnerability, Kai documented in his reports. That was his job. That was what he was supposed to do. But the reports grew shorter, more clinical, leaving out the way his heart stuttered when Rio smiled, the warmth that spread through his chest during their conversations, the growing certainty that he was making a terrible mistake. In return, Kai gave him pieces of truth wrapped in lies. He talked about a childhood that was half real, ambitions that existed only for the mission, dreams he was afraid to examine too closely because they increasingly featured a future that could never exist. He told himself he was maintaining his cover. He told himself the ache in his chest was just stress. He told himself a lot of things that were becoming harder to believe. One night at Rio's penthouse apartment, rain streaming down the windows, Kai slept beside Rio as he stared at the ceiling and felt something inside him break. This had started as a tactic, a strategic move. Use intimacy to gain trust, gain access, gain evidence. But somewhere between the first kiss and this moment, everything had shifted. What Kai felt now wasn't tactical. It wasn't strategic. It was real and terrifying and completely incompatible with his mission. "I never believed in this," Rio murmured. "Connection. Partnership. I thought I was too damaged, too focused on survival." "And now?" Kai asked, his voice rough with emotions he didn't want to name. "Now I think maybe I was just waiting for the right person." Rio pressed a kiss to Kai's shoulder. "Stay tonight. Stay every night." Kai wanted to, and that wanting filled him with self-loathing because he knew this would end in betrayal. He was lying to a man who'd given him everything. He was using someone who trusted him. He was becoming exactly the kind of person he'd always despised. But he couldn't stop. Not yet. Not when he was so close to completing his mission. "I'll stay as long as you'll have me," he whispered. It sounded like a promise. It felt like a death sentence. Kai started missing check-ins with Director Chun. He'd file his reports late, stripped of personal details, mechanical in their recitation of facts. When Shin pressed him for more intelligence, Kai deflected. When she questioned his commitment, he assured her everything was proceeding according to plan. But it wasn't. Nothing was going according to plan. Because Kai was falling in love with his target, and he didn't know how to stop. The evidence came by accident, 2 weeks before Kai's mission deadline. He was in Rio's office, looking for a contract, when he found a false bottom in the antique desk drawer. Inside were ledgers, real ledgers, detailing transactions that never appeared in the official books. Shipments to conflict zones, payments to known arms dealers. Everything the Bureau needed for a conviction. Kai's hands shook as he photographed the pages. This was it. His mission complete. He should have felt triumphant. Instead, he felt sick. He was replacing the ledgers when Rio's voice cut through the silence. Looking for something? Kai spun around. Rio stood in the doorway, perfectly still, his expression unreadable. But his eyes held betrayal and something worse, unsurprised recognition. "How long have you known?" Kai asked quietly. "Since Singapore." Rio stepped into the office, closing the door behind him. "You're good, Kai. Excellent, even, but I didn't survive this long by trusting anyone completely. I had you investigated. Agent Kai Morrison, Intelligence Bureau, 6 years of service, decorated record." His smile was bitter. "Though I must admit, I didn't expect you to be quite so dedicated to your cover." "Rio, was any of it real?" Rio's voice cracked. "The conversations? The nights we spent together? Did you feel anything, or was it all just part of the job?" Kai took a step forward. "It was real. All of it. I never meant to." "To what?" "Fall for your target." Rio laughed harshly. "How inconvenient for you. I love you." The words burst out of Kai, unbidden, raw, and desperate. "I know I have no right to say that. I know I've lied to you about everything, but that's true. I love you, Rio." For a moment, something vulnerable flickered across Rio's face. Then his expression hardened. "Love? You want to talk about love while you're photographing evidence to destroy my life? Then tell me I'm wrong." Kai shot back, anger and anguish mixing in his voice. "Tell me these ledgers are fake, that you're not smuggling weapons to warlords, that the man I fell in love with isn't the criminal my file says he is. You want the truth? Rio moved closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous and pained. Fine. Yes, I smuggle. Yes, I move money and goods through channels that don't appear in any official record. Do you know what else I move, Agent Morrison? Medicine to embargoed regions. Supplies to refugee camps that UN red tape won't reach. Information that helps stop human trafficking. I built a shadow network because the legal one failed people like my family. Like the families I help now. Kai felt the ground shift beneath him. The arms dealers. Our covers. Ways to maintain credibility in circles where I need intelligence. Every gun I've moved has been tracked and reported to authorities. Ask your handler about Operation Windfall. Ask them how many trafficking rings they've dismantled using information from an anonymous source. Rio's laugh was hollow. That source was me, Kai. It's always been me. The room spun. Kai thought of every briefing, every directive. Director Chen's eagerness to bring down Nakamura Holdings. The suspiciously thin file. The lack of concrete evidence that had necessitated his deep cover operation in the first place. The Bureau knows, Kai whispered. They have to know. Some do. Some want me stopped anyway because I operate outside their control. Some. Rio's expression turned weary. Some just want to win, and I'm an acceptable target. Why didn't you tell me? When? Rio's voice broke. When you first arrived, already lying about who you were. When we kissed, and I knew I was falling for someone sent to destroy me. When should I have confessed my secrets to a spy, Kai? I'm sorry. Kai's vision blurred with tears he had no right to shed. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. But you do now. Rio handed him a small flash drive. Everything's on here. The real operations, the legitimate cover businesses, contacts with humanitarian organizations, even my correspondence with sympathetic bureau agents. Take it. Complete your mission. Or, he paused, something desperate entering his eyes. Or trust me the way I trusted you. Kai stared at the drive in his palm, then at the man before him. This beautiful, complicated, impossible man who'd turned his entire world upside down. In 6 years of service, he'd never questioned an order, never wavered from his duty. But he'd also never been in love. I need to think, Kai said finally. I need time. You have until morning, Rio replied softly. That's when I assume your people will come for me, evidence or not. I won't run. I'm tired of running. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I believe you. About loving me. That's the only reason I'm giving you a choice. Kai didn't sleep that night. He sat in his hotel room, the flash drive in one hand, his encrypted phone in the other. He reviewed the files Rio had given him. All legitimate, all verifiable. Then he made a series of calls, following threads he'd been too focused on his mission to pursue. By dawn, he had his answers. Rio was telling the truth. More than that, his shadow network had done more good than the Bureau's official operations in the same region. And Director Chun had known and hadn't cared, because Nakamura Holdings represented a threat to established power structures. Kai had been a weapon aimed at an innocent man, a good man. When the sun rose over Tokyo, Kai made his choice. He met Rio at the office, where his target, his love, stood waiting with the resignation of someone prepared for the worst. Kai set the ledgers on the desk between them. I'm burning these, he said quietly. I'm telling the Bureau the investigation turned up nothing. You're clean. Hope flickered in Rio's eyes, fragile and tentative. And your career? Probably over. Kai smiled sadly. I'm good at what I do, but I'm a terrible liar when it matters. They'll know. You give up everything? For me, not for you. Kai corrected, stepping closer. For the truth. For what's right. Because you've given me something I didn't think existed anymore. A reason to be myself instead of whoever they need me to be. He cupped Rio's face in his hands. I love you. The real you. The one who saves people instead of destroying them. And I can't be the instrument of your destruction. I won't. Rio's composure finally cracked. He pulled Kai into his arms, holding him like a lifeline. They'll come after you. Let them. Kai buried his face in Rio's shoulder. I'm done being their weapon. Then what will you be? Kai pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Yours. if you'll have me, even after everything. Rio's kiss was his answer, fierce and claiming and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were crying, both were smiling. I have a proposition, Rio said. My organization could use someone with your skills. Someone to help coordinate with the authorities who do understand what we're doing. Someone I can trust absolutely. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership. In every sense. Rio's thumb traced Kai's cheekbone. Help me make a difference. The right way. Kai thought of 6 years spent in shadows, becoming anyone but himself. Then he thought of the man before him, who'd seen through all his masks and loved him anyway. Who'd trusted him with the truth when it could have destroyed him. Yes, Kai whispered. To all of it. Director Chin accepted Kai's resignation with cold displeasure, but no real surprise. The investigation into Nakamura Holdings was quietly closed for lack of evidence. Some in the Bureau knew the truth, but the ones who mattered had protected Rio all along. Kai Morrison ceased to exist, at least as an agent. In his place was simply Kai, partner to Rio Nakamura in both business and life. They worked together, moving resources to where they were needed most, building bridges between legal and necessary operations. It wasn't perfect. There were close calls and dangerous moments. Some nights, Kai still woke from dreams of what he'd almost done, almost destroyed. But Rio was always there, pulling him close, reminding him that he'd chosen right. No regrets. Rio asked him one evening, a year after that fateful morning in the office. Kai looked at the man beside him, brilliant, beautiful, complicated, and kind, and smiled. Only that I didn't trust myself sooner. We have time now, Rio murmured, pressing a kiss to his temple. All the time in the world. And for the first time in his life, Kai believed it. He'd gone undercover to infiltrate an organization, to get close to a target, to complete a mission. Instead, he'd found something far more dangerous and infinitely more valuable. He'd found home.